Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Brents, Burke, Carlson, Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colasico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillian King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Einhart, Oshner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Peyton, Phillips, Pruce, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Schlichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin, Watkins, Whitmer, and Zimmerman. Okay. All right, so we have 45 senators present, and now we'll go into directors. All right, Belk, Bruner, Chiefchi, Cohen, Croslow, Dunfield, Gammon, Gertzen, Heise, Hopfinger, Hornung, Horton, Carmali, Kulkarni, Land, Lundeen, Nunez, Penny, Polson, Steiner, Wilbrandt, and lastly, for other positions, we have Riffle.
Okay, we are now going to move into first open period. Our first open period speaker tonight is Ronnie Grice, who's the KSU Chief of Police.
Our mission is to preserve
a safe campus environment
where diverse social, cultural,
and academic values are allowed to develop and prosper.
The Kansas State University Police Department prides itself on an atmosphere in which men and women from a variety of backgrounds and experiences can thrive. A team of more than 40 people, from administrative staff to patrol officers, is dedicated to ensuring the security of the K-State campus.
We are the eyes and ears on campus.
This involves everyone from our student dispatchers to officers and detectives. It's a great community of people with great opportunities.
Kansas State University is a land-grant institution with more than 24,000 students from all 50 states and more than 100 countries. There are a variety of responsibilities at the department and include investigations, dispatch, event security, IT and administrative support. This also includes student-oriented services such as community outreach.
This environment allows me to see investigations from beginning to end. The department has the latest law enforcement technologies and provides officers with the best equipment to respond to the most dangerous situations.
The professionalism of the department is second to none. The ability to advance career-wise while working is a big positive as well.
Training is a major emphasis at the K-State Police Department. New officers will attend the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center for the 14-week Police Academy, followed by a 12-week field training program on campus. Other development opportunities for officers include 40 hours of continuing education each year.
We're law enforcement for the campus community. The K-State Police Department is here to provide a safe environment for students to live and learn.
That's a brief video about your department, something about myself. I have been in law enforcement almost, it'll be 40 years in April. I just completed 25 years of service here at the university, and of that 40 years, 27 has been spent as a police chief in campus law enforcement. What you don't realize is that you, the campus, the student population, the faculty and staff, you are our sole responsibility. We are here for you. That's what we do. Sometimes people just have the impression that when you're a campus cop, you round doors, you shake doors. That's all that you do. With this video, one correction, when we had this made, our student population was right at the verge of 25,000. So now we're down a little bit, same principle, numbers a little bit smaller. Another university working to get those numbers back up. We are a full service, 7-day-a-week, 24-hour police department. That's what we do. And if you're not familiar with the setup here in Raleigh County has only one law enforcement agency. That's called the Raleigh County Police Department. And we're the number 2. Because back in 1973, the citizens voted to merge all of the municipalities into one agency. What simply means is you don't have a sheriff department, you don't have a municipality, you don't have a municipal police department for Raleigh, you don't have a municipal police department for Ogden. Way back in the heyday, it was like that. They voted to consolidate all law enforcement jurisdictions into one police department. That's Raleigh County. So there's 2 law enforcement agencies in this county, RCPD and KSUPD. And Lord knows we work hand in hand with everybody. Raleigh County, FBI, Secret Service, Highway Patrol, Kansas Bureau of Investigations. We work with all of those agencies. And with the construction of MBAF, we've been spending quite a bit of time working with Homeland Security. So what do? We patrol, we work accidents, we work investigations. Anybody familiar with the shooting incident that happened a while back up at the foundation one morning? We're good. We made an arrest in about a week and a half. So that's what we do. So we just don't shake doors. We don't rattle cages. We are a full service police department with men and women while you're asleep. They're on patrol. We have a security staff. Those are the individuals who are eyes and ears that you might not even see. These are the individuals in the brown uniform that walks through the buildings. And they catch so much stuff, we ask them not to get involved, but to call us. The department here, we have state-of-the-art technology. The department is completely paperless. We use no paper at all. Even if you have an accident report, you cannot even pick it up at the department. You have to go online to a service, and they will send you your report. That's what we do. We sit in the same classroom with the officers of the Raleigh County Police Department. within the certain boundaries of the campus. With our new memorandum of agreement, we have just expanded our jurisdiction to countywide. I try to keep it close, but I say countywide because we own property all throughout Loudoun County. We're responsible for Concord Prairie. We're responsible for all foundation property, Kansas Department of Ag, everything that's up in the research park. The buildings at the airport fall under our jurisdiction. So we have expanded, but I try to keep them within range, but sometimes these youngsters, this gets up wild. Now, when I give a presentation, I know there's a lot of questions. Feel free to ask, because I had to flashback to some of the questions that I was asked last year. And one of the questions that's most commonly asked is, on game day, Chief, why is it that your people be messing with us up on the parking lot? Now, I know everybody knows parking lot is, that's grass lot. Ladies and gentlemen, we got other things to do. If you don't bring attention to yourself, you never see us. Keep that thought in mind. Keep that thought in mind. Because we're dealing with 50,000 plus fans. It's not like over at KU, where they only fill the stadium while they're in the show. My counterpart last week, why is it that we got fined, TCU got fined, and KU didn't get fined? But the Chief, y'all had more people on the field than we did. Okay, I can understand that. But I want everybody to know, we're not here to ruin anybody's parade or ruin anybody's tailgate experience. We just ask that all of our students and the guests just be responsible. Because, you know, there's an alcohol policy that's out at the stadium, and we have been given the authority to determine what's a reasonable amount of beer. Now, I don't think nobody's parent in this room is going to call me on Monday morning and say, you're going to allow my son or daughter to come into the stadium with 30 pack on the back of a pickup truck. I don't think it's going to happen. Just be responsible. Be reasonable. Completely. We serve with a smile because we want everybody to have a good time. And it's just like what we do here at campus. We provide a 24-hour service, and feel free to call us at any time. That's what we do. We're here for you. Because guess what? If you was not here, well, we wouldn't have any faculty. Some of us would be here because we would probably have to protect the investment that the state has just in the buildings alone. Our website, there's a lot of information on it. And we have a web administrator that's always updating and adding information there. Have anyone ever went and looked at our website? Somebody said yes, at least fooled me that you did. There's a lot of information on that website. There's all of the services that we provide. You know, we provide the Safe Walk. We provide their services.
Time for the speaker has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Oxner. Are there any objections? It's been moved and seconded to extend time by 10 minutes. Seeing none, you have 10 more minutes.
All right, I'll pass it. Go to the website. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of information about the weapons policy. I was co-chairman of that committee where we had to put a weapons policy together because of state statute. A lot of information is there rather than that. And most common question, how many violations of the concealed carry law that we have on campus? One. You're going to say zero. Yeah.
Are there any questions for the speaker, Director Lundeen?
Right now, they are looking at probably within the next year of moving the Division of Public Safety to Dutchler. They are in the process of remodeling, they call it the castle, the old power plant, and they're looking at moving the Associate Vice President for Facilities and Planning Office out and moving us in. Now, I've been there for 25 years. When we moved to Edwards, we was only supposed to be there for 5 years. Back in 1996. And we're still there. But hopefully, that building is a mess, and hopefully it'll become a parking lot. But yeah, and it'll be nice to be back on main campus too. I like walking to these instead of coming up trying to find a parking spot. It's easier. Next question.
Are there any other questions for the speaker, Chief of Staff Polson?
Yeah, kind of going off what you just said about Edwards Hall not being on main campus, what are some of the greatest challenges you see being off the main campus?
Not really. None, because right now, I like walking, and when the weather's nice, I will actually walk from Edwards Hall up to Anderson Hall just to make it refreshing. But sometimes, when the weather gets inclement, and it takes a personal touch out of being out on main campus where you get to really mix with the students at the faculty. And when you're out at Edwards, there's nothing out there but dead men and Jordan housing. So, yeah, it's convenient. And if you like walking, and if you're a people person, you like being with people, saying hi, good morning, how you doing, you get that luxury. Because years ago, we was in the old stadium before they kicked us out and remodeled that and made it the Welcome Center. Wow. So, definitely nothing in
Are there chair boos?
Yeah, you mentioned that your office is completely paperless. Do you have any formal training or, like, I don't know, training on ransomware or like phishing, that sort of thing?
We go through all the same training that's put out by IT, information and technology through that office. Matter of fact, I just had my online training Monday. So, and I have an IT section. So I have people who monitor what we do and with all of the software, because now just imagine, we lost the library about a year ago. Luckily, I was in Mexico on vacation. Thank goodness that my server was not in the library, as I would have lost my server. So my server is in my building in a secure area. But it just goes to show how important those different locations are when you're trying to protect that type of technology completely. And they were talking about putting some stuff in the cloud. Well, we have to go through certain protocols with Kansas Highway Patrol, FBI, and the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. So there's certain things that we couldn't even think about putting in the cloud, because they said no, because people can't hack into the cloud, so we won't put confidential reports there or anything. So our security, we get audited 3 times a year, and they spend time with my IT section. Then they come to me at the end result of the audit. But malware, the IT section, they do all of that, but they follow the guidelines also for information and technology.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciated it. Our second open period speaker for the night is Peggy Schmidt, who's the Associate Dean for the College of Veterinary Medicine.
Thank you. So I was asked to come here tonight to talk a little bit about the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program in the College of Veterinary Medicine. We are a unique program currently on campus. So we are a professional practice degree. We are not a research graduate degree. So you do not need to have a bachelor's degree in order to enter the program and receive your Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree. That is very similar to Medical doctors, podiatry, nursing. The university you go to may require a bachelor's, but is not a requirement of obtaining the degree. We have a 4-year, what we call a lockstep curriculum. So the students are told what courses they will take and what rooms they will be in. They have little choice. We do allow 12 elective credits within their first 3 years of the program and 11 elective credits in their senior year. The rest of it, and I'm going to look at Senator Burke, who represents our college. It is very intense. 21 to 22 credits per semester would be average. And much of that is laboratory time as well. So it may be a 1-credit lab, but they are 3 hours in the classroom or in the laboratory. And then when it comes to subjects such as gross anatomy, probably another 10 to 12 hours a week on their own in the lab, because they are comparative anatomists. So they will learn canine, feline, equine, bovine anatomy across a variety of species. The first 2 years of the program focus mainly on basic science, your anatomy, physiology, pathology, immunology, bacteriology, parasitology, all of those ologies. As they transition into 3rd year, they'll get into their medicine and surgery. So they will do their first live animal surgery fall semester of their 3rd year, do spays and neuters for animals in shelters throughout northeastern Kansas. When they finish their degree after 4 years, they are licensed to practice on every non-human species. We write prescriptions for honeybees. We will do medicine on tarantulas, as well as the typical pets that you would see anywhere from reptiles to cats and dogs, horses. We do it all. Next slide, please. So again, it's a 169 credit degree, averaging that 21 to 22 credits per semester. We do expect our students to dress professionally as they begin to really develop their professional identity throughout the program. So you'll see most of them will be in a polo or a nice shirt. They'll go into jeans, colored jeans like I'm wearing. But we tend not to have yoga pants and tank tops and torn jeans and things like that, because we really do want them to start to think like they're a doctor. What you'll find up there is probably most shocking is the cost of the DVM degree. So tuition and fees alone for a Kansas resident are about $25,000 a year. Our non-residents are currently at $55,000 a year, tuition and fees. And then add another $12,000 to $15,000 a year for cost of living, which gives you our average educational debt. That was for our 2019 graduates, for a Kansas resident of just over $128,000, and for our non-residents, just over $250,000. And that's just their veterinary school debt. So if you're bringing debt up from undergrad, that adds on to it. Our debt to income ratios, many people think veterinarians are like doctors, human doctors, and have that type of salary. The average starting salary for our graduates in 2019 that went to work in practice rather than doing an internship or a residency was about $73,000 for starting salary with a $250,000 debt. So don't think that veterinarians are doing this to get rich. There are ways, thankfully, through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program and some other loan repayment programs, ways to address that debt. And that contributes to what you see up there for health and wellness. Depending on the studies that you look at, veterinarians have a 1.7 to 5 times greater suicide risk than the general population. Financial stress comes or contributes to that to a certain degree. Probably the biggest contributor to that is access to euthanasia solution. So once they've made a decision, we have easy access to the tools to fulfill that. Compassion fatigue, perfectionism, the academic rigor, all of that come in as well. Many of you are perfectionists yourselves. And then that just exacerbates when you get into veterinary school and you were already the top 10% of your class. Now you're not, because again, there can only be a top 10%. We'll have students who've achieved the first C they've ever had in their life, and many of them think their life is about to end because of that. So we do have 2 full-time counselors on faculty to work with our students as well as our clients, faculty, and staff. Next slide, please. So we do have a relationship with Main Campus, but again, as Chief Grice said, we're kind of up on the edge. Our students don't get down here to utilize the union as much as we would like. All of our coursework is currently 700 level or above, so it does show up in the undergraduate catalog. However, undergraduates are unable to enroll in those courses. You have to be within the DVM degree program, or some courses are also open to graduate students. The Graduate College approves all of our coursework, whether graduate students enroll in it or not. So we are currently going through a proposal to renumber all of our courses to 800 and 900, which actually aligns with our university handbook, as well as the Kansas Board of Regents that say professional curricula should be 800 and 900 level. The College of Veterinary Medicine, we also house master's and PhD degree programs, as well as the Masters of Public Health on campus. It is housed within the College of Veterinary Medicine, but we do that jointly with faculty from Health and Human Sciences, Arts and Sciences, and Vet Med as well. The other unique thing is graduate students cannot be TAs in our DVM curriculum. You have to hold a terminal degree in order to teach veterinary students. That's part of our accreditation. So you have to hold a DVM or a PhD unless, for example, an MPH would be considered a terminal degree. So that, plenty of time, right? I was practicing getting in time. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the veterinary program.
So are there any questions for our speaker right now? Senator Brentsy.
About our diagnostic lab? Oh, so yes, we have Dr. Jim Carpenter on faculty, who's one of the premier exotics veterinarians in the U.S., has written the book on exotic medicine. And so we have a great relationship with not only the Sunset Zoo, which has the Dr. James Carpenter Hospital at it, but we do a lot of work with zoos, wild animal parks, those types of facilities, and we get a lot of those patients into our teaching hospital as well. We've put pacemakers in ferrets. We've done work on tigers, and I'm going to look at Senator Burke. What else have we had in recently? Yes. So for pre-veterinary students that really have an interest in exotics, whether that is zoo or even exotic pets, we have a tremendous program here and great hands-on access to those animals.
Are there any further questions for our speaker, President Penny?
Great question. So with NBAF coming in, they have been working closely with us from the initial proposal to have NBAF come to Manhattan. The federal government has provided services or funds for us to train DVM PhD as well as just PhD graduates as a pipeline for staff within NBAF. We already have our BSL-3 facility at BRI, and so we have been really working to have that be a stair step into much of the work that they will be doing with more high-risk pathogens at NBAF. So a great partnership.
Are there any further questions? Chief of Staff Polson.
Great question. So the undergraduate Bachelor's of Science in Public Health, veterinary medicine, our college has been working collaboratively in the development of that since we currently house the Master's in Public Health. And a lot of the expertise within public health is housed within our college. So for example, we've been asked to contribute 2 new undergraduate courses, an introduction to epidemiology and an introduction to environmental health, which aligns directly with our strength. We teach the graduate coursework in epidemiology and environmental health, and I'm lucky enough to currently be the course director for the introduction to epidemiology. And so we're really excited to share our expertise into the undergraduate realm. We do that with a few courses, mostly in ag right now. So we're excited to help really develop that, because I think there's a lot of potential career opportunities for that bachelor's degree.
Yeah, granted.
So would we expect to see a higher interest in the master's? Potentially. It's really designed to be a standalone bachelor's, so there will be employment opportunities for students to graduate with that bachelor's, but it also will set them up to naturally blend into the master's, as well as potential for entering into medical school, veterinary school. A lot of the undergraduate public health degrees will have a pre-professional track. We're not going to do that here. Our goal, first and foremost, is to create a degree where after that bachelor's, you are highly employable. You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for our speaker, Intern Coordinator Colburn?
Great question, and you didn't miss it. I did not include that, so I apologize. So we accept 100, typically between 112 and 117 new students to matriculate into the program. Our facilities max out at 120. We can't accept more than that.
Granted.
We stay stable. When it comes to veterinary medicine, we always have more applicants than open seats, which makes it a highly competitive type of a program. So we're still nationally, as a profession, doing quite well. Our biggest concern is as the cost keeps going up, we're going to have fewer interested students. So at some point, we may see that decline, but we have not at this point.
Are there any further questions? Oh, time for the speaker has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Koger. It has been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by 5 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you have 5 more minutes for questions.
Thank you.
So are there any further questions? President Penny.
Yes. So what about is your acceptance rate?
Good question. What is our acceptance rate? So we typically will have about between 1,100 and 1,200 applicants for those 112 seats. Out of those, we'll say 1,200 applicants, usually about 850 to 900 are qualified. They meet our minimum academic requirements. Out of there, about half of those get interviewed. We try to interview about 450 and then select that 112 out of there.
Granted.
And then what is the male-female ratio? And is there like a
The male-female ratio. As a profession, starting in about late 80s to mid 90s, there was a gender shift from a primarily male profession to a predominantly female profession. So across the profession right now, we're about 80% female. Within our classes, we tend to be 70% female. So we enjoy a larger number of male students applying and getting accepted into our program.
Are there further questions for the speaker? Senator Rodriguez.
So we have what we call absolute attrition. So we will have students that maybe take a year off for personal reasons, for medical reasons, or an academic reason. And so those that start and do not complete the degree will average between 2% and 4%. So we do our best once we get them into the program to keep them in the program. If we didn't think they were intellectually capable, we wouldn't have brought them in.
Further questions, Director Lundeen.
That is in the DVM degree, the veterinary degree. We have, like I said, between 112 and 117 is where we try to keep it.
Follow-up, granted.
I could not tell you how many were from K-State. I can tell you we do 50 Kansans, and then the remainder are non-resident. K-State, we will get both resident and non-resident from K-State, so I'm sorry, I can't answer that for you.
Any further questions? Senator Prus.
Yes, and it's a good question because we will provide health care for all of those reasons. And in that case, it was a privately owned animal, so you can look it up, Zelda the ferret. So Zelda from Kansas City got the pacemaker. And so a lot of it is really the owner and how they value that animal and what they're willing to do for it. So it is very cool. And I'd love to say I did it, but I did not a cardiologist. But yes, there's some really cool things that happen down there.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming tonight, Dr.
Thank
you. With that, we'll now be moving into approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator King. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved. We'll now move into announcements for the week. So first, the Privilege Fee Committee is in need of additional at-large members to serve. Anyone interested should contact Donnie Riffle with a brief explanation of why you want to serve on that committee and what you would contribute to the group. Also, just to highlight, this would be a great experience if you're like a phase 2 intern who's like looking to get more involved. I think that like getting involved on committees is a great way to do that. So that's my plug. Second, the application for the Attorney General for next year is now live. That form will close on November 15th at 3 p.m. The link is included in the agenda. Third, the legislative branch still needs 2 people who will sit on the Attorney General Selection Committee. If you are available on November 19th from 6 to 9 p.m. and would like to serve on that committee, please contact Speaker Heatherman at her email. Proxies for the night are Bowers for Bond, Oxner for Dowd, Jabin for Gallardo, Brency for Gilliland King, Hines for Kerperin, Rivera for Kidd, Smith for Whitmer, Spellman for Coleman, Rodriguez for Orzakowski, Glasscock for Ward Kelly, and Carlson for Ward Shalen. So there's a whole lot of proxies tonight, but please make sure that if you have a proxy, you are voting. We have things like constitutional amendments on the agenda, so make sure to vote for both yourself and your proxy. SGA members of the week this week are Senator Ashlyn Gillespie for her work on the elections reform, and the Privilege Fee Committee for their due diligence and their 5-week review of the fine arts fee. So can we give them a round of applause? I have 2 other quick announcements that aren't listed on the agenda. First of all, the Legislative Advocates application is now live. So if you are interested in serving on legislative advocates and going like to the Capitol next spring and advocating for K-State and higher education, please fill that out. That is on Org Central. You can also direct any questions to Legislative Director PJ Hopfinger. And then also, just to point out, we are still trying to correct the issue on why there are no strike-throughs on the final draft of the agenda. So if you have like any questions about legislation or like are wondering what's been struck, please remember that on the first draft of the agenda, Word documents are included so you can see those strike-throughs. In addition, you can always go onto Org Central, the legislation tab, and then look at final action for anything that's in final action for that week. So those are 2 options available to you. Finally, the quote of the week this week is, "The conductor of an orchestra doesn't make a sound. He depends for his power on his ability to make other people powerful." That's by Benjamin Zander. Next, we will move into committee chair reports. Is there any committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair Booz.
All right. Hello, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Andrew Booz. I'm the Senate Operations Committee Chair. And I just wanted to update you about what we did in Senate Operations the past 2 weeks. So last week we went over the final drafts of our bills that are addressing various things about the Elections Commissioner and the Elections Committee. And so we have submitted them for introduction today. You can see them in today's agenda as well as on the prelim agenda for the actual full text. So that means that it's actually, barring some unforeseen controversy about these bills, which we will always address, that it's time for to address funding and specifically, let's see, funding reports, which I'm blanking on the quite correct term for that.
Expense reports.
Yeah, expense reports. Thank you, Nathan. And so if you have any thoughts at all on the current expense reporting system that we have for running for election, please either send your comments to me or a member of Senate Operations Committee, or come to Senate Operations Committee's meeting at 8 p.m. on Monday, next Monday, in the CSI conference room. So that's what we did this week, next week, and that's what we will do next week. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Are there any questions for Chair Booz? Yeah, can I have someone for speaking rights? Thank you.
Yeah, that would be next Monday. I'm not precisely sure. So it's currently the 7th, so that'll be, I believe, on the 11th at 8 p.m. in the Center for Student Involvement conference room. You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for Chair Booz? Seeing none, are there any further committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair Riffle.
Evening, Student Senate. Just want to get you an update on the activities privilege fee coming up this next week. We'll be starting our review on the student activity fee. So I highly encourage anyone who may be interested in where that money goes towards to come join us 6 p.m. Monday in the CSI conference room. Also, along with that, definitely agree with that about needing another at-large member. It's a great time. We'd have a lot of fun. I can just tell you that. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Riffle? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
So as Nathan said, just shoot me an email. Ready for this? DHRiffel, RIFFEL, @KCU.
Are there any further questions for Chair Riffle? Okay, seeing none, are there any other committee chairs that would like to make a report? Senator Oxner.
So yeah, unfortunately, Special Committee on Enrolled Student Success did not meet last week. I got called into work. So if you were watching KSMT that night, thanks. So we're meeting this coming Tuesday. We're going to be discussing again some of the questions that are going to go on that survey that we plan out to send us out to the student body. So if you're interested in what the survey questions will look like, or if you want to have any input on that, you're more than welcome to come, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'll gladly listen. So.
Are there any questions for Senator Oxner? Caucus Leader Spellman. Wasn't sure what the title I should use.
Yes, so it's going to be this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Location TBD. So I'll send that out, or I'll have Hannah send that out.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, are there any other committee chairs that would like to give a report? Okay, with that, we'll then move into directors' reports. Are there any directors that would like to give a report? Any hands at all? No? Anyone from exec? Okay, with no one from exec, then I'm going to move into my director's report for tonight. For those of you, if you'll remember, way back at the very first meeting of the semester, I promised that I would make an SGA handbook, and then I promised we'd do some sort of quiz over it. So I have created a Kahoot. We are going to go into Kahoot mode right now. If you studied the handbook, you'll be prepared, but you should have incentive because I have 2 free Call Hall ice cream tickets. So there's actually an incentive to win and be the winner tonight. So if you'll give me just a moment, we'll get the Kahoot set up and we'll play. So. Testing, testing. Okay, good, this one works. So yeah, please log in right now. I'll do a final call, so. Okay. Also, yes, everyone in this room is eligible. I will give the tickets to whoever wins. So like, if you're an intern and you studied hard on that handbook, all the questions came out of it. If the student body president wins, he's gonna get them. So like, it goes to whoever wins. Is there anyone else who is still trying to get on? Okay, got a few. Last call. Anyone else? Okay, we've got a few. Okay. Okay, is there anyone else? Raise your hand, speak now. Nobody? Okay, we are gonna get started then. I randomized where the answers would be on every one, so. There you go, good job. Easy starting question. Is that you? Oh. Man, it's the statutes. Yeah, so information time really quick. The statutes has all the odds and ends. So anything that you don't know where else it would go, it's in the statutes. So. Is that Madeline Burke? Yeah, so kind of a trick question. That's been a position for the past 2 years, but it is not one currently. So there you go. Piper Cohen. Good job, OPAC. Yeah. Okay. So does anyone else know some of the other independent positions? I'll go with, communications director, intern coordinator. What's the other one? Elections, yeah. So treasurer is one of them. Treasurer is not in any branch. Sai helps all the branches. So. Is that you? Good job. Oh, wow. Yeah, so a third of your privilege fee each semester, 35% goes to Lafine. So if you're not using Lafine, you're paying for it every semester, so. Because it's student health is actually what it is, like that is what it goes to, so. That's the contract. Yeah, so it's lower than everyone thinks it is. It's actually $850, not $1,000. So. So yeah, there were 2 correct answers. Commendations take only 1 week, but so do appointments. Every time we put someone in for the first time, that's a 1-week thing. So, what are the 4 options you have when your name is called? Senator Hines. Correct. So their options are yay, nay, abstain, or you can pass. So there's always 4 options when you vote. This is how I worded it in the handbook. So if you read the handbook, you would have known that I worded it this way. So. Good job. Chapman King. Yeah. So who does oversee violations of the Student Code of Conduct? You guys, that's our other branch, guys. You should know. What? Okay, but who in judicial? So student tribunal is a real thing. Student review board does that. Student tribunal is the appeals court. So if they want to appeal their decision, that's where it goes. job, good job. We're down to hard questions now. Ooh, good job. I'm glad people got that. Okay, this last one is a direct quote from the handbook, so you really had to read it to get this quote. It was Peter, direct quote from Peter. So that was kind of a hard question to end on. See how well you guys did. So with that, the winner is interns are great. Who is that? Is that Lily? Okay. So I want to thank you all for actually like actively participating. I think this was kind of a fun mental break from a lot of the other things that we do. So I'm glad that we could kind of just have like this moment to have fun but still learn about SGA. Okay, so with that, we're actually going to move into college caucus time for the night. So each of our colleges are going to split off on our own. This is just a check-in time right now. It was requested by the caucus leaders that we just have like a little bit of time to get together. If your caucus isn't planning a lot or doing a lot right now, consider this a recess that you can take for a little bit. If your caucus is meeting though, please follow your caucus leader and meet them. If you don't know where to go, come to the front and find me, and I will help you find the right place to go. So with that, we're going to split by our college caucuses. Yes, Noah? It's 15 minutes. Student Senate, if we could start finding our seats, please. We'll reconvene in just a sec. We're going to continue moving ahead with our agenda right now. Also, if you haven't noticed, we swapped out secretaries. So Carson's got some legislation that he's like leading and everything. So Sadie, our lovely chief of staff, is taking over and we'll be doing like votes and everything like that. So exciting. The next on our agenda is approval of minor allocations. We only have one minor allocation this week. It is a travel allocation to Beta Upsilon Chi. They requested $500 and they were recommended $500. Is there a motion on the minor allocation? Senator Beasley? It would be like you move to like approve it. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minor allocation. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minor allocation will stand approved. Next, we'll move into final action on Bill 34. Will the author of Bill 34 please come forward? And have any changes been made?
No, we have not made any changes.
Okay, with that, you then have first right to debate.
Right. So as I said when I brought it up 2 weeks ago, this bill is an amendment to the Constitution to correct something which is outdated, which is the name of the current Center for Student Involvement, which before 2017 was the Office of Student Activities and Services, and it is still that way in one instance in our Constitution. And so this amendment to the Constitution, really the only thing it does is it changes the requirement for the Constitution and the bylaws to be kept. It used to be they needed to be kept on file in the Office of Student Activities and Services, to mandating that they be publicly available online. So, online, available to the public, et cetera. So I don't see any reason not to pass this amendment. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, is there any debate in the negative on Bill 34? Any more debate in the positive? Any more debate at all? So with no debate, we'll move into a roll call vote. I'd like to remind everyone that constitutional amendments take 45 votes to pass right now. So if you are a proxy tonight, please make sure that you are voting for your proxy, just because we need to make sure that we have enough votes for this to pass and or fail, however Student Senate sees. So that will move into a roll call vote with Sadie.
All right, patience, please. Almadani. Oh, it's all Abdullah first. My bad. Beasley.
Yes.
Belina. Yes. Betancourt. Yes. Bond. Yes, by proxy. Booz. Yes. Bowers. Yes. Brents. Yes. Burke. Yes. Carlson. Yes. Carr. Yes. Clark. Yes. Clements. Yes. Coggeshall. Yes. Colasico. Yes. Cruz. Yes. Dowd. Frederick. Yes. Dowd.
Yes, by proxy.
Gallardo.
Yes, by proxy.
Gilliland King.
Yes, by proxy.
Gillespie.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Hamlin.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Huffman. Jabin.
Yes.
Jonak.
Yes.
Kelly. Kerprin.
Yes, by proxy.
Kidd.
Yes, by proxy.
King.
Yes.
Koger.
Yes.
Kurzweil.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes, by proxy.
Lomsheck.
Yes.
Lux. Matos.
Yes.
Meinhardt? Oxner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Peyton? Phillips? Prus? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Slichter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalen? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Okay. Passes, yeah. Is that how you read this? Passes 52 to 0 to 1.
Okay, next we'll move into Bill 36. Will the author of Bill 36 please come forward? And have any changes been made?
The answer to that is yes. So please pull up the copy that you have because I will be going over them. There is one change that is substantial, in my opinion. The other two are not. So the first change would be on line, on line 79, we added the words "with the approval of the newly elected student senate." So in order to appoint a temporary chair, the outgoing speaker would need to gain the approval of the newly elected student senate before they did anything else. The second change, which is on multiple lines, is on line 134, is we added 3 unexcused absences back into the bylaws so that would be subject to a higher amount of votes necessary to change that requirement while leaving the other requirements for the student senate standing rules. That is also changed in the description of Senate Operations Committee, which also has the same language. And then the final change is on lines 249 through 274. We remove 11A1. So 11A2 becomes section 1 in that section. We replace the list of committee chair names with the words "the chairs of all standing committees" defined in this section. And then we add a new section 2, which defines that a quorum of Senate Executive Committee would be a majority of the voting members. And so this is to make sure that we don't have to update this section necessarily every time we add a standing committee. Instead, you add a standing committee to the same section, section 11, and it would just automatically be a member. The chair would automatically be a member of Senate Executive Committee.
With that, you have first right to debate.
Right. So as I said last week when I came up, this spilled out of work that I was doing over the summer, and in fact actually spilled out of a draft that Matthew Orzakowski and Haley Spellman brought me at the very end of last year. And so really it was originally just adding GR to become a standing committee, but then it spiraled into so much more. So among other things, it changes the requirements, the number of senators that are required to be in a standing committee to a minimum instead of a defined number, except in the case of privilege fee. It adds GR as a standing committee, removes the academic competition team standing committee from being a standing committee just to being a normal committee, and then moves a whole bunch of other things around and makes many grammatical changes to make the Article 4 of the bylaws more consistent, more clear, and I believe a better version of what it currently is. I don't believe that any changes in the bill are controversial or very much so. If there is anything that is very controversial, controversial, I would be more than happy to amend those changes out of the bill and then submit a second bill with those changes, because I do believe that almost everything in here is necessary to make Article 4 better. But I would love to have that debate another time as well. So overall, like, I don't see any reason for a negative vote. Just, you know, I hope everyone read it thoroughly and understands what this is doing. And even if, you know, you don't, we can always amend the bylaws later as well. So I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Colburn?
$266. Yeah, so, okay, that is one thing that I did miss.
I'll get that. We can make that if it's a friendly amendment.
Yeah, that is friendly. That should be SGA.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, now we'll be seeking debate in the negative. So is there anyone looking to debate in the negative on Bill 36? Any debate in the positive? Any debate at all? If not, we'll move into another roll call vote with Sadie.
All right. Olabdullah. Almadani. Beasley. Belina. Betancourt. Bond. Booz. Bowers. Brents. Burke. Carlson. Carr. Clark. Clements. Coggeshall. Colasico. Cruz. Dowd. Frederick. Gallardo. Gilliland King. Gillespie. Glasscock. Hamlin. Hines. Huffman. Jabin. Jonak. Kelly. Kerprin. Kidd. King. Koger. Kurzweil. Coleman. Lomshek. Lux. Matos. Meinhardt. Oxner. Orzakowski. Pelton. Peyton. Phillips. Pruse. Rivera. Rodriguez. Reichert. Slichter. Smith. Snyder Ben. Snyder Blaine. Spellman. Wallace. Ward Kelly. Ward Shalin. Watkins. Whitmer. Zimmerman. All right. Vote passes 49-0 to 1.
Okay, so with that, we'll move into Bill 37. I'm actually the author on Bill 37. So next in line for people who's here is actually Chair Booz to chair Senate. So.
Okay, do you have your own copy? Because I wrote this. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I'll get that. Okay, thanks. Have any changes been made?
Yes, there was actually two substantial changes made in committee on this bill. We added 2 names to the list of members of the special committee. So Ty Dowdy and Avantika Ramakar were both added. And then we also added new section 5 on this bill. So we actually legislated an advisor for the committee, which is Ashley Douglas. She's currently the advisor for DPC. After meeting with Kelly, the legislative branch advisor, she recommended that we just add an official advisor since we're dealing with like funding regulations and stuff like that. So that's it.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author?
I think it's first right to debate.
Well,
Yeah.
right. First right to debate.
So yeah, so for my debate, I just think you should vote yes. This is a platform that like I personally ran on for Speaker Pro Tem. So if you elected me for Speaker Pro Tem, I would hope you would vote yes on this bill as well, because this is me trying to see that out into fruition. The Diversity Programming Committee has had like a variety of like proposed changes over the years. I would say even in committee on Wednesday, we still had like points of question over the guidelines and things like that we would really like to fix moving forward. And I think a special committee is the best way to do that because it gives students who aren't in Student Senate the opportunity to vote and like voice their opinion on that. Those groups that like typically apply for funding. That was one of the things we did with the members. I think this is a really great opportunity overall, and I would be happy to answer any questions that the body may have of me. Vote yes.
All right, are there any questions for the author? I'm seeing none. Thank you. No. I can keep mine up here.
Now we'll be seeking any debate in the negative on Bill 37. Is there anyone looking to debate in the negative? Anyone looking to debate in the positive? Any further debate at all? If not, we'll move into another roll call vote. Sadie, it's you.
Al Abdullah? Almadani? Yes. Beasley? Yes. Belina? Betancourt? Yes. Bond? Yes, by proxy. Booz? Yes. Bowers? Yes. Brents? Yes. Burke? Yes. Carlson? Yes. Carr? Yes. Clark? Yes. Clements? Yes. Coggeshall? Yes. Colasico? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Dowd? Yes, by proxy. Frederick? Yes. Gallardo? Gilliland King? Yes, by proxy. Gillespie? Yes. Glasscock? Yes. Hamlin? Yes. Hines? Yes. Huffman? Jabin? Yes. Jonak? Yes. Kelly? Yes. Kirprin? Yes, by proxy. Kidd? Yes, by proxy. King? Yes. Koger? Yes. Kurzweil? Yes. Coleman? Yes, by proxy. Lomschek? Lux? Matos? Yes. Meinhardt? Yes. Oxner? Yes. Orzakowski? Yes, for proxy. Pelton? Yes. Payton? Yes. Phillips? Pruse? Yes. Phillips, was that a? Yeah, sorry. You're good. Ah. Okay, Rivera? Rodriguez? Yes. Reichert? Yes. Slichter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Yes. Snyder Blaine? Yes. Spellman? Yes. Wallace? Yes. Ward Kelly? Yes. Ward Shalen? Yes. Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Yes. Vote passes 53 to 0 to 1.
With that, we'll move into Bill 38. Will the author of Bill 38 please come forward? Have any changes been made?
Yes, so online, starting like 26-ish, where it says, basically it says whose positions were unpaid in the last joint committee cycle, that was changed to reflect that. Instead of saying, I think it said where the positions were unpaid in the past. So this just kind of makes it, because the positions have been paid like 6 years ago, but in the last cycle they weren't paid, so this just like clears that up. And then I think there's like a couple extra commas that were added in by Andrew, so other than that, I think nothing substantial.
Okay, then you have first right to debate.
All right, cool. So I know last week was Halloween, so I don't know how many people actually like paid attention to this. But this is a very important bill. This is the disapproval of the Joint Committee on Officer Compensation Salary Recommendations. So first off, I want you guys to kind of imagine that it's 3 years from now and JCOC is looking to meet. Larry Mader, the chair, who has been a chair for multiple occasions in the past years, will be retiring soon, which means next time this happens, there will be a brand new chair who has no idea what's going to, like, what this committee is, and will most likely have very little knowledge of SGA and the positions. This means that currently, as it stands, a 6-page report will be determining the salaries of the SGA officers. In this report, there's no mention of how comparable positions are determined. There's no mention of basically how salaries are determined in general overall. So, I believe it's imperative that SGA votes to approve this bill and in turn asks the committee to present a rubric that details how they came to their decisions. There is another bill, Bill 1920-45, that is very similar to this. It has a few different suggestions into looking into positions that aren't actually paid currently. That just wasn't something that I considered in my bill. Personally, the only reason that I didn't leave it in was because I figured if we had a rubric, we would be able to figure out where those positions laid within that rubric once we got it. And I didn't include anything with privilege fee just because I figured same thing with the rubric, we can figure out where it falls on the spectrum. So that's only it. And then I would also like to state, if anyone's confused about how I said that like the travel and on-campus positions were based on inaccurate information on the past titles. It was stated before Senate that university allocations became 2 positions. It became travel and on campus. That is not true. There have always been 2 allocation positions. There was the college allocations position that became travel, and then there was university that became on campus. And so when they said that basically 1 position became 2, and that was the reason for halving the salary, that is not actually true. So yeah. Does anyone have any questions about all that? It's a lot of information.
Are there any questions? Oh, no question? Okay. With that, we'll now be seeking debate in the negative on Bill 38. Any debate in the negative? Any debate in the positive on Bill 38? Cox Leader Glasscock.
Hey people, it's me. I will say the only thing I'm a little mad about is that if this bill passes, we'll have to start meeting at 7:30 a.m. again, which wasn't great before. I'll still go, I'll still do it because I love you guys. I'll still vote for this bill because I think it's important. I will say that I have no problem with passing a bill of disapproval on this one. This, I think, mainly takes issue with how the report was presented. And I'll say that I too had some issues. I wasn't quite pleased with how the report itself, the physical report, turned out. So I have no problems going back and revisiting it and redoing that report. There were some parts of it that I believed were inaccurate. And the part about the allocations chairs, that's RB. We were not right about that one. We'll get it right the second time. The only other things, a rubric, yeah, we'll do that. That's great, easy peasy. I believe in the bill, it states that we did not interview holders of those past positions. I will say that we did conduct some interviews and we did do some research. None of that made its way to the report though. So we'll do some new interviews. We'll get those written down on the report for you guys. Other than that, I think this bill's home run. Second one coming next week. That'll also be home run. But I say, yeah, no problem voting yes on this one.
With that, are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we'll now be seeking debate in the negative on Bill 38. Is there any debate in the negative? Any debate in the positive? Any more debate at all? If not, we will now move into a roll call vote on Bill 38. As this is one of the more contentious things tonight, I would just like to remind everyone, since we have so many proxies, that as a proxy, you should vote how that person would vote, not just how you would vote. It's not just a second vote for you. It's your opportunity to be someone else's vessel. So please just keep that in mind if you are a proxy tonight. So with that, we'll move into a roll call vote. Go ahead, Sadie.
All right, Al Abdullah. And Sorry, can everyone just be quiet so I can hear and don't have to ask twice? Thank you. Almadani.
Yes.
Beasley.
Yes.
Belina. Betancourt. Bond. Booz. Bowers. Brents. Burke. Carlson. Carr. Clark. Clements. Coggeshall. Colasico. Cruz. Dowd. Frederick. Gallardo. Gilliland King. Gillespie. Glasscock. Hamlin. Hines. Huffman. Jabin. Jonak. Kelly. Kirprin. Kidd. King. Koger. Kurzweil. Coleman. Momshek. Lux. Matos. Meinhardt. Oxner. Orzakowski. Pelton. Payton. Phillips. Prus. Rivera. Rodriguez. Reichert. Slichter. Smith. Snyder Ben. Snyder Blaine. Spellman. Wallace. Ward Kelly. Ward Shalen. On Shalen. Kelly. Okay, and Watkins. And Whitmer. Zimmerman. All right, vote passes 52 to 0 to 1. 53 to 0 to 1. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, so with that, we'll move into Bill 39. Will the author of Bill 39 please come forward? And have any changes been made?
No.
Okay, first right to debate.
So I encourage you all to vote yes, because this is a really good organization. Wildcats Against Sexual Violence was just recently founded 3 years ago, and in the spring they do their walk to end sexual violence. I went to it last year. Really fun event where a lot of organizations get to table along the walk. It's really educational, and I encourage you all to go in the spring. But with that, I hope you all vote yes.
With that, are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Koger.
Yeah, they're bringing in a contestant from The Bachelorette, Kaylin Miller Keys, because she founded the Not Just a Hashtag movement, which is like really cool. I think it's really cool that they're bringing her onto campus. I think it'll bring like a lot more hype on there. Yeah.
Remember, we're not supposed to make debate during questions. So, are there any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, is there any debate in the negative on Bill 39? Is there any more debate in the positive? Any debate at all? Okay, if not, we'll move into a roll call vote. Last one, Sadie.
Al Abdullah. Almadani. Beasley. Belina. Betancourt. Bond. Booz. Bowers. Brents. Burke. Carlson. Carr. Clark. Clements. Coggeshall. Colasico. Cruz. Dowd. Frederick. Gallardo. Gilliland King. Gillespie. Glasscock. Hamlin. Hines. Huffman. Jabin. Jonak. Kelly. Kirprin. Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomschek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Pruse, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalen, Watkins, Whitmer, Zimmerman. Vote passes 50 to 0 to 2.
So with that, we'll now move into introduction of legislation. Is there a motion to consider Bill 40? Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 40. Will the author please come forward? Senator Beasley. It's been moved to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you can summarize.
So I'm up here as a representative of Senate Operations Committee on this bill. In particular, Ashlyn Gillespie did a lot of the work on writing these two. And so, yeah, congratulations. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to summarize because yeah, there's a lot of very technical changes. But really, this bill is about the elections commissioner and the committee and the board and the various ways in which they've interacted. In particular, there was an incident last election cycle where the elections commissioner almost got removed, or a bill was sponsored to remove the elections commissioner. And so in that case, both the Speaker of the Student Senate, the President, and the Attorney General would have just needed to appoint a new commissioner within 48 hours notice. And so at that time, the Speaker was running for election, and so that had raised some concerns. And so that's one of the major changes in this bill is that if someone who would appoint the elections committee, the elections commissioner, is running for student body president or student body vice president, they are required to recuse themselves from that selection process, and they're encouraged to recuse themselves if they know that they may be running, even if they haven't filed yet. So that's the major change, but there is also some grammar and other changes. So like changing line 36 from committee to commissioner because it's obviously in the commissioner section. Adding, basically polishing up the rest and then adding the elections board as opposed to just saying the 3 voting members of the elections committee. But actually defining the elections board in the bylaws as opposed to just the statutes. And then finally, removing coordinator of student activities and inserting KSU SGA legislative branch advisor in the position of an advisor so that we always have the legislative advisor in that position as opposed to necessarily the director of student activities. So, yeah.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, I will then be seeking a motion to consider Bill 41. Is there a motion to consider Bill 41? Senator Phillips? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 41. The author's here. Intern Phillips. It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you are allowed to summarize.
Also, actually, a friendly amendment, line 14 on, I believe, both bills should be 1920-16 instead of 1916-16. Okay, so yeah, this is the amendment to the change to the statutes portion of this as opposed to the change in the bylaws, which I just introduced. So again, Ashlyn worked on this a lot. In particular, really, this was just changing who is responsible in the statutes for various things. So we changed various things to be, a decision of the entire elections committee, a decision of the elections board, or in one particular instance when reviewing let's see, reviewing finance reports, which I'm blanking on that term again, but I'll keep going. Both a member of the elections committee and the elections commissioner needs to modify or look at the reports to certify that they are correct. And so, I mean, really, that's the major change that it does, and it should make more clear which body is responsible for which activity going forward.
With that, are there any questions and or corrections for the author? Senator Phillips.
Which line was that? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I'll write that down.
Okay. Yeah, you've got that one. Cool. Thank you. And thank you.
Are there any other questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, I will now be seeking a motion on Bill 42. Senator Oxner. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 42. Senator Oxner. It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you may summarize.
Hey there, everyone. Get excited. You finally get to start hearing some Priv fee legislation come through. Thanks. All right, so Bill 42 here, I'll just kind of go over what our final decision is and some of those main points as to how we got to that decision as a committee. So this bill here is a 3-year continuance of student legal services, $112,499 privilege fee budget. And just a few things about that. So student legal services provides a free legal services to all students here at K-State. And currently students here at K-State on the survey would say they would struggle to pay for these services if they were not otherwise offered. Currently is only staffed by one attorney, Sarah Barr, most of you know her. And she sees anywhere from 375 to 425 cases every year, which if you think about that, that's a little more concentrated during the school year, so it's not even during an entire year. Currently, it provides significant financial value to students. Last year, it was estimated around $150,000 in value of legal service was provided in 2018 to 19. More consideration is they, on average, carried over about $5,000 to $9,000. But she does currently have plans to utilize that amount, including potentially offering a free background check system for students to be able to utilize. And overall, she does collect feedback from students, and that was very positive. And so overall, the committee felt that this continuance was appropriate.
With that, are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Al-Abdullah.
Yeah, so I couldn't quite hear all your first question, but what I got is, does she do? Yes, so typically, no. Typically, so what she says that actually representing in court takes up quite a bit of her available time, and if she did that, she would be able to see less students on average. Other than that, your second question is only one attorney staffed right now, and that's the only staff that Student Legal Services has, is that one individual person.
Follow-up granted.
So to providing professional legal counsel to students, yes. Necessarily.
Senator Hines. and Attorney General Moyer. Sorry, Chair Riffle can defer. You can ask him to defer to you. So
I defer to you, Peter.
Sorry, for any future questions, can we just raise hands so we can keep track of what's going on? Yeah, Senator Al Abdullah, you can ask Chair Riffle and he can defer out. Sorry.
So not necessarily entirely. Her range of functions here at K-State include not only that confidential legal advice, but also includes legal rights education. As we all saw, she came into the Senate earlier this year and gave that educational presentation. She does quite a few of those here on campus with students. And also, as a previous speaker mentioned, she does represent students on occasion in court.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, I will now be seeking a motion on Bill 43. Is there a motion on Bill 43? Senator Javin. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 43. I would also support a motion to summarize. Senator Javin. It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you can summarize. Senator Beasley, did you have? It's been moved and seconded to allow all authors for the rest of the evening to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, everyone who comes up for the rest of the night can summarize. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So Bill 43 and 44 are both in regards to Wildcat Watch. We do have two separate contracts with them, and so this one is on their equipment reserve. And so for this one, we, as a committee, opted to give them a one-year continuance on their contract. So Wildcat Watch is a service that provides, similar to what Student Design Services does, they provide a video media production service to students and organizations here on campus, free of charge. And they're actually a very young entity, so this is actually their third year total of Priv fee funding. They actually started in student center and tuition enhancement. Currently in their budget surplus, they have around $92,000, which is utilized for upgrading their video equipment, and currently don't have any planned upgrades in the future. And so just based on that, we felt that they were responsibly using their current funding and that their surplus is pretty appropriate as more of a reserve amount for in case anything happens to break with their equipment. Along with that, we had a few questions regarding on whether their equipment was insured or not. Currently, there's not a lot of basis on that, and so we're also including a recommendation for them to inquire of the possibility for insuring their equipment.
Are there any questions or corrections for the speaker?
And one more point, it is $15,000 is what the budget is for equipment reserves.
So with that, are there any questions or corrections for the speaker? Senator Beasley.
When you say recommendation for insuring, is that like just like written in the text? Hey, you guys should probably insure your equipment, or is it like a like this funding will be given provided that insurance is on?
Yes, so the verbiage that's in just the bill, so it's not included in the contract that we have with them. This was a discussion that we had with them pretty thoroughly, and we definitely told, as a committee, we're like, hey, it would be awesome if within this next year you were to inquire about insuring your equipment. That would be something that next year's committee would love to see coming back. So it's not like it's a requirement or anything. It's a recommendation on the bill.
Chair Booz.
Do you know about what the approximate value is of all of Wildcat Watch's equipment?
Off the top of my head, no. I could probably get that number for you if you'd like, or by next week I can definitely have that.
Are there any other questions? Intern Phillips?
So if you just hold that question for the next bill, I would love to go into that.
Any other questions or corrections? Seeing none, I will now be seeking a motion on Bill 44. Senator Snyder. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 44. The author is already up here, so feel free to go ahead.
Awesome. So as I mentioned, this is another one on Wildcat Watch. This is actually their operations budget. Again, a one-year continuance. Again, video media service, 30-year total of funding. So in 2019, they completed with an operating surplus around $8,750. They receive on average around 18 project requests each semester, which might not sound like a lot, but considering the fact that these are video production projects that go from idea, planning, production, shooting, production, all that does fit their capacity pretty full. Currently, they do suffer from a very high turnover rate due to their kind of unique status. So they're actually a club. They're not a service provider, as mentioned, like student design services or anything like that. And so currently, they mentioned they only have around 50% commitment of their workers on projects, and so they do suffer from high turnover. And so, like currently, we do feel that they are responsibly using their funding. But what we talked with them a lot about and what they were very interested in is kind of looking at a restructuring of their organization away from that club basis, more towards a service service group or organization. And so that's why we felt that adjustments to their budget, seeing how they're a young group, they're kind of more in that experimental phase, and that they would be seeking that restructuring. That's why we felt that the one-year contract kind of fit very well in this. Basically, we kind of talked about how one-year contract, they'd spend this next year looking into options and what it would take for them to restructure. So also their surplus, we felt they don't have any reserves on their operations, and we felt that it's a pretty appropriate amount for a young group such as them. Yeah, and in the bill, we do recommend them to spend the next year determining a plan for restructuring.
With that, are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Al Abdullah. Can you try to phrase it as a question?
Not quite sure if I understand your question. Yes. Okay. So, as far as members of organization, do you mean like people who are actually producing their content for groups, right? So while I say they do have a high turnover rate and kind of that 50% buy-in from members, the 50% who are bought in are kind of what they are basing their utilization off of. So the 50% who are bought in are really the ones who are actually allowing this utilization and this budget usage to exist. The high turnover is more just kind of a thorn in their back at this point. The fact that they have students coming in, so I'll explain a little bit. So as a club, if any person decides to come, get into the club and contribute at all to a project, they essentially have to be put on the payroll, even if they were to put in a minimal amount of work and then leave after a few days. And so that's just more of the issue with that turnover and kind of their structure currently. But the funding that they are using right now is being put to good use by those ones who are bought in and who are functioning more as like a full-time worker, even though that's not a thing with their club function. And so that's kind of what the focus of the restructuring would be, is to move into a platform to where they could actually have a hiring process, full-time student employees, and that's where those more involved top 50% of their current producers and contributors would go.
Are there any further questions and or corrections for the author? Seeing none, I will now be seeking a motion to consider Bill 45. Senator Snyder. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 45. Will the author please come forward?
Hi, everyone. So since we've already heard a little bit about JCOC this evening, I'm just going to go to the whereas clauses that are pertinent to this bill after we have the whereas clauses that explain what JCOC is as an entity itself. So that starts on line 45. So whereas JCOC recommended the privilege fee chair compensation at 35% of tuition based on 14 hours for the next 3 years, although the Senate operations, allocations, governmental relations, and diversity, equity, inclusion chairs are recommended 12%, 12%, 6%, and 6% respectively. Whereas the report presented does not provide any justification explaining the significance served by this position, nor why its compensation is nearly 2 or 3 times as much as its next highest paid peer. Whereas all committee chairs and their chair, or all committees and their chairs, contribute to fulfilling the function and mission of KSUSGA and providing varying levels of compensation categorizes the importance of committees. Whereas positions previously not compensated in the past that have now taken on more responsibility, such as elections commissioner or intern coordinators, were not considered. Whereas history alone should not dictate our decisions, and whereas Student Senate has a responsibility to ensure our policies align with our values and expectations through diligent, intentional oversight. Being enacted that Section 1, Kansas State University Student Governing Association disapproves of the recommendations made by the 2019 Joint Committee on Officer Compensation. Section 2, KSU SGA enumerates the following reasons for their disapproval. 1, the 2019 JCOC report did not provide adequate justification for the difference in compensation between standing committee chairs. 2, further, the report did not adequately explain why the privilege fee chair compensation was determined to be high. 3, officer positions not compensated in the past cycle are not addressed in the report. Section 3, the KSUSGA recommends that the following actions be taken by the committee in their review. 1, investigate and consider the time spent by current and former KSUSGA officers on work relating to their positions. 2, present a rubric with the criteria that was used to determine salaries. And 3, make changes to the report as warranted by further findings. And then Section 4, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, recommendation will be sent to JCOC.
Are there any questions and or corrections for the author? If you are confused on why there is a second JCOC report,
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, so Carson had his earlier tonight. We already passed it. And I wanted to say these 2 disapprovals aren't working antagonistically. This one simply just has different positions that they want to inquire about their compensation. So in Bill 38, it was specifically DEI and GR that were being inquired about because they had not been compensated in the past. And Bill 45 is focusing more on privilege fee, which has been consistently compensated at a high rate. Also, positions such as elections commissioner, intern coordinators, or other officers that have not been compensated in the last cycle. So that's kind of the difference there. They aren't like working antagonistically. They kind of have the same backbone where we just want more explanation and more depth to the report. And so I want to make that clear. Like passing 38 is great. I loved 38, and we can also pass 45. They aren't working against each other. It's just another reason to disapprove of the report, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Senator Preuss, for the explanation. Are there any further questions after hearing that for the speaker? Chair Booz.
Yes, according to members of Senate that were on the JCOC, they were considered, but there wasn't actual like evidence in the report of like the criteria that they used to realize why they weren't being compensated. And we just want that explicitly in the report so that we can have that in our records.
Any further questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, I will now be seeking a motion to consider Bill 46. Senator Koger. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 46. Will the author please come forward?
I actually have a friendly amendment on this really quick. In line 10, 12, and 25, national needs to be struck. It's the Midwest meeting, not the national meeting. And then line 17, meeting needs to be added after association. But yeah, other than that, this is the travel allocation for the Dairy Science Club. They're going to be going to the Midwest American Dairy Science Association meeting, and they'll get to learn about the new technologies in the dairy industry, networking with professionals in the industry, and bringing that back to the students at K-State. They requested $2,000, and we're allocating them $1,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions and or corrections for the author? Chair Booz.
Correct.
Granted.
Yes.
Got that. Thank you. Are there any further questions and or corrections for the author? Seeing none, I'll now be seeking a motion to consider Bill 47, Senator Snyder. Seconded to consider Bill 47. Will the author please come forward?
All right, so this is the travel allocation to the KSU Photo Club. So basically, they'll be sending their members down to Houston, Texas. And so in this, members of this organization will get to see different portfolios from people who are like in industry. So there'll be people from like National Geographic, and they'll get to see like different ways that they take pictures and all of that. And they'll also get to present their own portfolios and have the industry professionals like be like, here's some suggestions on like what you can do. So it'll be really great. Also, there's a couple of professors going, and they base the curriculum on this and kind of change their courses to reflect it. So essentially, it's a really good opportunity for them. And so they requested $1,000, and we recommended them $1,000.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, we're now on Bill 48. Is there a motion on Bill 48? Is that intern Bill Nen? It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 48. Will the author please come forward?
All right, so this is also a travel allocation. This one's going to On the Spot Improv. They are going to a workshop in Chicago. They're gonna go meet with some professionals, learn some new skills, and then they also offer improv workshops every month here at K-State. So they're gonna use those new skills that they learn in Chicago, bring them back here, and have even better improv workshops here for all of us. So they requested $2,000, and we are recommending them $1,000. And I'll answer any questions.
Any questions or corrections? Seeing none, I'll now be seeking a motion to consider Bill 49, Senator Snyder. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 49. Will the author please come forward?
Pronounced Cameron. This is just a travel allocation to Sigma Alpha Professional Agricultural Sorority. They will be attending their leadership seminar in St. Louis, Missouri on February 7th and 8th. It's a joint seminar with Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. They will be going there, learning like networking skills, working through workshops, and networking with students all across the country. They are requesting $1,100, and we're recommending $1,000. Please stand for questions.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none. With that, we actually move into second open period. We finished all 10 bills for the night. Exciting. Most legislation one night I think we've had all year. So with that, I'll be seeking anyone to speak for second open period. Elections Commission. Spellman.
Okay, so I have the title Elections Commissioner, but this isn't SGA related. So on Tuesday, of course, we had the election. It was all like really cool. I wanted to provide a quick little update because in 2017 for Manhattan, turnout was at 22%, but for 2019 it was at 28%. So like 2,400 more people voted this year. So thank you.
With that, are there any questions for Elections Commissioner Spellman? Chair Booz.
Not yet. I just looked at the website. I'm updating it every day. I don't know the age and gender breakdown yet. I'll let you know when I do.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Okay. Seeing none, are there any other speakers for second open period? Chair Booz.
All right, so obviously the bylaws changes that we just passed were rather big, so I'm going to try to make sure to integrate them, and then I will send you a copy of the new Article 4 of the bylaws. So when you're making any more bylaws changes this year, this term, please use that copy and not the one that's currently in the bylaws, because they're very different now in organization, if not in content. So thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay. Seeing none, are there any other speakers for second open period? Vice President Karmali.
Let's see. Oh, I don't know. That.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so just quick update from me. So Cabinet met with the foundation today at 5:30, and we met specifically with Greg Lorenz, who is one of the executives over at the foundation. He basically handles like all real estate that the foundation gets, either from donations from like alumni or anybody who wants to donate, or from property that they buy. And they're looking to get a student committee of people basically to like consult and advise them on like real estate actions, like when they're like making like Blue Stem Bar and Grill or like expanding in that direction. They want like student input on like what would be attractive to new people and young individuals coming in, because frankly they said it themselves, they're just not up to date on all of that. So if anybody would be interested on sitting on that committee, it wouldn't be a huge time commitment, and you would get to see some really cool stuff that the foundation's doing. You can shoot me a text, you can reach out to me over email, stop me after this, whatever works for you guys.
Are there any questions for Vice President Karmali? Seeing none, any other second open period speakers? Senator Prus.
Hello, sorry for my absence last week, but we have Senate shout-outs tonight. I'm really excited because we have a lot, and some of them are really funny. So, shout out to Big Al for being my country pal. I feel like that's Alan Hines, so snaps for Alan. Shout out to Nate and Andrew for acting as speaker tonight. Shout out to Justin Socks. Oh, cute. Oh, shout out to Justin Socks. Be responsible tonight. That was good. Natalia Rodriguez, awesome work on stepping up in DEI and everywhere else on campus. Keep doing you. For Sadie, miss seeing your beautiful face in front of Senate. Sis, look at that. Shout out to the Architecture Caucus for her efficient meetings and hard work. We love her. Shout out to Olivia P for that cool shirt. Killer fit girl. That was kind of weird that I just read that, but thank you. It's from Express. Shout out to Natalia Cardigang. I don't know what that means. For Justin Watkins, geez, because he's awesome, but also because he has put a lot of hard work into this semester/term and has done a lot as GR chair. To Caucus Leader Glasscock, stay cool. To Creighton Glasscock for always looking fly as bad word in Senate. Shout out to Bailey Brighton for attending meetings and covering SGA and KSU Night. Awesome. To Haley Nunnick, am I saying that right? Okay, good. I couldn't read it very well. Shout out to us for being the something master. Shout out to you, girl power. That's summarized. Sarah Pelton for being superior to the caucus leaders of the College of Ag, Education, Arts and Sciences, Engineering, and all the other colleges I'm forgetting. Go College of Biz, I'm guessing. Senator Pelton for being a great mentor. Shout out to Nathan Bothwell for taking the reins tonight. Shout out to Fisher because he didn't request a proxy this week. We love you, Fisher. Thank you for coming. Nathan Bothwell, this is like a love note, for doing an excellent job at keeping Senate on task and reminding voters by proxy to vote honestly for the senators they're representing. Also, shout out to my fellow interns. So awesome. Shout out to the intern that wrote that too. The KSU Polytechnic campus appreciates the transparency and communication between the main campus and our humble little campus. Senate Chairman Curry, that was so sweet.
We actually have guests from Polytechnic here tonight.
That's awesome.
That's all I have for this week. Thanks, guys.
Nate. I also have another shout out I didn't get to throw into the folder. Shout out to Judicial for bringing me lotion when my hands were dying. Thanks.
Okay, with that, are there any further second open period speakers for tonight? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now move into reference of legislation. Bill 40 and 41 are referred to the Senate Operations Committee. Bills 42, 43, and 44 are being referred to the Privilege Fee Committee. Bill 45 is being referred to the Senate Executive Committee, and Bills 46, 47, 48, and 49 are being referred to the Travel Allocations Committee. With that, we'll move into final roll call. So take it away, Sadie.
All right, guys, please remain subtly quiet for a little bit longer. Al Abdullah. Almadani. Beasley. Belina. Betancourt. Bond. Booz. Bowers. Brents. Burke. Carlson. Carr. Clark. Clements. Coggeshall. Colasigo. Cruz. Dowd. Frederick. Gallardo. Gilliland King. Gillespie. Glasscock. Hamlin. Hines. Huffman. Jabin. Jonak. Kelly. Kerperin. Kidd. King. Koger. Kurzweil. Coleman. Lomshek. Lux. Matos. Meinhardt. Oxner. Orzakowski. Pelton. Payton. Phillips. Bruce. Rivera. Rodriguez. Reichert. Slichter. Smith. Snyder Ben. Snyder Blaine. Spellman. Wallace. Ward Kelly. Ward Shalen. Watkins. Whitmer. Zimmerman. All right. 44 senators are present and 15 are absent.
Just before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I was really nervous before chairing tonight, and this meeting went really well. So thank you all for the good meeting. With that, I will now be seeking a motion for adjournment. Senator Beasley. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn until next week. Any objections? I'm guessing not. See you all next week.